Hello, my name's Heather Leson. I'm with Open Knowledge, not Open Knowledge Foundation. We just recently changed our name. I'm here today with Irina. Irina, I've forgotten how to pronounce your last name. Can you pronounce your last name for me, respectfully?
It's Bolychevsky.
Bolychevsky. Irina Bolychevsky is the director of CKAN, which is one of our products here at Open Knowledge. And today she's going to give you a little bit of a demo and understanding. Ah, why did it start doing that? Stupid videos. All right, so it hit press play at the same time as I was talking. There you go, technical fun. It's good that you can see how I'm blushing now. I'm matching my hair. At any rate, so Irina is going to give you a little bit of a tour about CKAN. She's going to explain how it's used, where it's used, how can you get started, all those basic questions, and she's going to answer any questions that you have. So please feel free to ask them on Twitter or on the G+ page. And this video will be recorded, so if you do have to stay, be here for a little bit. We certainly will make sure that we're here for the period of time. We can always answer questions on our discuss list. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Irina. And Irina, please tell us all about CKAN. What does it mean? What does CKAN mean, by the way?
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Heather, and thanks for making this happen. As Heather said, I'm kind of in charge of our product development and technical consultancy work at Open Knowledge. And one of our products, really, in some ways, our flagship product is CKAN. And it's kind of seen phenomenal success over the last couple of years. It's essentially, obviously, an open source data platform. It's free to use. It's the code is all on the web, and we also kind of provide consultancy for it. Anyway, so to start off, CKAN, initially that was a name that Rufus picked, actually stands for the kind of Comprehensive Knowledge Archive Network, which is basically kind of meaningless unless you're a developer, and we don't really talk about the name. Oh, here we go. Just bring the Google Plus out, and it's just kind of CKAN now, right? So I've got a little presentation that I'm using kind of as a basis for links. This is available to everybody, so I can kind of drop the link in the chat if we have a chat here.
I'll share it with everybody shortly too. Just
okay, I'll drop it in this chat.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, so the basis of CKAN really is to make data more discoverable for users and reusers, for citizens, for data journalists, for civil society, for transparency advocates, and also to help and encourage governments to manage their data better, to have it well signposted, to have it in order, to be aware of everything that's there. And so I'm going to talk about both of those halves. So on the one hand, there's the kind of data discovery side. And what CKAN provides is kind of a keyword search and faceting by tags and locations and formats, and the ability to browse and discover data. So I mean, this sounds great, but I'm going to sort of demonstrate what it looks like on an example CKAN portal. So this is a beta portal by the city of Glasgow. So as you can see, they've got 261 datasets here, and instantly, not only, this is the kind of search page. You can go from the home page. You can kind of browse by tags. You can search directly for something that you're interested in, or you can go into a particular area. Maybe you're thinking, I'm interested in the economy and data related to that, and that instantly creates a kind of filter. So you're now looking into the kind of economy group and only seeing, which organizations publish that group, which tags are being used, which formats exist. You can also kind of browse by all the various publishers. So you can see DEFRA has 4 datasets, Department of Transportation has 7 datasets, and you can search and order through here, as well as obviously the thematic group. So for example, I might say I'm really interested in health data, and I actually want CSVs, I want to see tabular data. I might even think about narrowing that search to an area of Glasgow, and ideally they've got their data sets actually tagged geospatially, which I'm not sure they have enough of. And I can reorder by the most popular data sets within this area, what's been actually clicked on the most. And this sounds like it's the number of people being prescribed drugs for anxiety, depression, or psychosis is the most popular health type data set in Glasgow at the moment. We can have a look at how many views it's had. It's had 30 recent views. So, you know, there's a whole kind of way of discovering data. And once you actually look at the data, it's not just a link on a website. You know, there's a context, there's the name, there's the description. You can see who actually published this data. This is the statistics department. You can kind of have a look. You can download it directly from here. You can preview data. You can see the maintainer, and you can also browse again for related data sets. So, for example, if you're interested in depression data, you can see if there's any more specifically tagged depression data in here, which at the moment there isn't, but there will be, say, 43 data sets tagged with health specifically. So that's kind of on the discovery side. To give you a kind of an example where there's a huge, many more data sets, data.gov, another CKAN portal, actually holds over 500,000 records. So because there were that many, we actually had to clean up a lot of them out of the main search index, because a lot of them were similar related data. And kind of, you know, you can only see over 100,000 on the main index. But here, things like these kind of facets are incredibly powerful, because when you have so much data, it makes sense to really, you know, actually use things like geospatial search. So, for example, I've just looked at Denver, and what we'll see is the numbers dramatically dropped. And additionally, this data set, the top one, I suspect will be very close to what I drew. So, for example, this is the data set extent. So all the data in data.gov here is actually geospatial, and you can instantly kind of find things by their geospatial extent. A lot of the data on this side is often zip files or links to web pages. We've actually scraped this from this particular publisher, and we've actually taken the original FGDC data and converted it to a more international standard. So you can see the kind of original sources, and obviously you can see in this page what the data looks like, as well as all the various information about when it was created, responsible parties, you know, when it was last updated, the type of it, and everything else. Right. So I was going to give some examples in Discovery. Another, this is quite nice. This is something I found today, which is a kind of community Italian data hub, which uses tags that are kind of brilliantly, colorfully displayed here as a browsing method. So you kind of click on one of these, and it creates a tag for that specific area. One of the other things is obviously you can kind of filter and use, you know, keyword search. I won't search because I don't think I know any Italian.
So, Ira, how CKAN's been used around the world. Just to use our data on our data. How many installs has there been, or downloads has there been, and how many languages is it translated in? Just to kind of give, like, what does that global space feel like or look like? Sure.
So there are hundreds of installations of CKAN. So we don't know about all of them, because obviously all the code is available. So it's on github.com/CKAN. And we've kind of got about 70-something data sets listed on CKAN instances. So I can show you just here.
And can people report back and say, hey, I'm using CKAN? Can do they tell you? How do you find it? You said you tripped upon this Italian example. I'm just wondering, how do you trip upon that?
I found it on this instances page. So here are some kind of existing CKAN sites. You can browse them kind of by area. These are ones in Europe, by Australasia, or by kind of national government, regional governments. And the way you can actually report them and let us know via the kind of GitHub repository for this site, and create an issue or a pull request. Essentially, we need this set of information. Oh dear, not this set of information. This set of information, which is basically the title, the URL, description, everything else, and then we can add it. So there's actually quite a few here, but these kind of just need to be added. We don't have all the information always, but this is a good example of something that we want to be able to see to look at.
Exciting about Rio. It's been a big week for Brazil with their work that they've been doing there. Now, in terms of language translations, how many translations has there been? Like, how many different languages is CKAN translated in? Because I've seen, you showed me like a cross section, and I know it's been translated into many. It's always cool to know like who in the world's using this and how are they using it.
Yeah, so you can see some of the translations on the demo side at the bottom. You can choose the languages. We do all our translations using Transifex, so you can kind of come and volunteer and help translate. It's over 20 languages last time I checked, but I haven't looked at some of these new ones.
Yeah.
But you can see some of them here. Actually, I might make my screen smaller. Might be also
fantastic. No, I think Transifex is an amazing product for translating, and I think like, so if it's not in the language that you need, certainly you can help us get it into the language you need. So anyway, thanks for. I just wanted to, like, I know you've given us a little bit of an overview. I just kind of wanted to do a wide angle lens of who's using this where and how can they do that. So please go ahead. When you hit Italy, I was like, oh, I have all these questions.
Brilliant. Okay. So I think, so here you can see actually on the Italian site, there's 36 languages for, maybe this is for the search translate. I mean, the cool thing is that lots of people are doing lots of very different things, and it's kind of amazing some of the stuff that people have come up with. So to kind of give you some examples about how not only is CKAN good at signposting the data, so as a data journalist, you're coming here and you're thinking, how do I find it? You've got this search tools and these kind of browsing tools and finding related things, and actually having it all linked to from one portal is incredibly powerful. When I talk to people, they actually wish that there was one big aggregated portal across everything, which we have in Europe. Actually, we've set something up called publicdata.eu. That kind of pulls in data sets from all over national and regional centers within Europe, and kind of has a central search across all of them. So I will show you that in a second. First, I think I want to talk about some ways that people can actually start engaging with data. So, for example, this is a South Australian CKAN portal that we actually put together for them. They've got lots of apps and ideas, which are essentially a kind of various applications and visualizations that are using. So I can sort of see maybe some of them are visualizations. We've got one visualization. Most of them, I think, are applications. Kind of listed so that people can discover them, and also people can promote their own apps. South Australia are also pretty good at kind of the amount of data they have. They only have 233 data sets, but they've got like 40 ideas. Again, we can have a look at, for example, what's the most popular data set. And as you can see, it's baby names from 1944 to 2012. That's the most popular data set. And as a kind of user, you don't have to just download this. You can actually browse it and look at this without having to download it, which is really nice because it instantly gives you something to look at. So I can see exactly what the most popular names have been in South Australia between this time period. I can sort of search the data. So, for example, I was thinking, well, Joe is a fairly popular name in England. How popular is it in South Australia?
So, I like how they present apps so that you can actually show what do people do with the data. Considering you just showed us baby names, are there baby name apps tied to it? Because that just a weird correlation.
So I don't think there's baby name apps with this data set. So you can have a look. Oh, here we go. No, there is.
See, there we go. Impact data
related application, Heather. You know this better than me. That someone's created off the basis of this data, and they've showcased it here, and by adding it here, you can add more. It then gets listed in the main index as well. Look at this, how popular it is. So this is actually a story, not an app, but it's using this data and it's
useful. I think that's the thing, you know, when people talk about open data, they're like, yeah, and so what? And so the idea is, so what did you do with that data? And I think that kind of report back is really exciting when you say citizen engagement. Anyway, cool. Thanks for the South Australia example.
Yeah, and I mean, the nice thing is that you can sort of start having to think about, for example, the spread of the data. So we can see actually, you know, how popular, say, Jack is. It's actually a bit of an outlier. So, you know, there's actually almost 1,900 records in here. So if we kind of extend this to not just the first 100, but the first 1,000, we can see that really there's a few very, very popular names, and the rest are kind of more spread out. And you can get some idea of what the data is actually saying before you even before you even have to download it. And we have kind of additional information about each time it's been uploaded or downloaded. Another example. So this is actually a data site I found today that was I think built by some friends of mine in Canada. For the
those
city
Canadians, I'm telling you.
They're awesome. And so these guys have added kind of categories for browsing, and also this is really nice, which is they've actually used CKAN to collect suggestions. So quite a few data sites do this in various ways. So data.gov UK does this, data.gov does it through email. These guys just have a little form that presumably kind of goes into their database to suggest data sets. And it's, again, they have apps and visualizations in here as well that they're also using. So to kind of have a think about, say, with this data, you can also instantly see what the spread of the formats is. So, you know, there's how many are CSV, how many are elsewhere. We can have a look at, you know, the economy. We can look at sustainability indicators. We can search for specific keywords and reorder them by popularity or by other download counts, or by kind of relevance to your key term and everything else. And to give you an example of this median household income data set, again, I don't know how big this data file is. So this is quite small. It's quite a small data file. But again, it's something that you could, for example, graph if you want to. So you can sort of plot a little graph about what the median house income was. And this lets you see that actually, so we've got two lines, one for 2006, one for 2011, that in every area apart from Whaley, the median income actually went up. And in that region, it went down. And you can see that it actually went up pretty much by the same amount across all different areas. So this is another kind of instantly visually, you can see what this data is trying to say, and the kind of potential kind of impact of that, so which is kind of quite interesting. You can start discussions, obviously, as well, and share it by Google and Facebook. And if I was logged in, I'd also be able to follow this for updates. Right. So the second so that's kind of all the different ways that users might engage in it, that, you know, searching data, visualizing data, downloading the data, obviously. I didn't show you all the kind of data APIs, but we also actually provided data store with a queryable data API for things that are tabular, so you can actually write little programs on top of the data store. I don't know which of these guys actually have it, but I'll show you guys later. The second half of what CKAN really provides is data management tools for the publishers themselves. And one thing I found is the biggest user of data portals in government is often government themselves. So actually having a data portal allows them to really understand and see what and categorize all the data that exists as well as kind of manage it in a much more scalable way.
I like to think that I like to think with open data, Ira, that you know, the conversation about like people sharing with each other in their official organizations and practices is the first level of sharing. That if they don't know how to share within each government infrastructure, then that's a problem, because then there's duplication, or you know, people don't know who has what. And I think that's really helpful to know that you know, it's helping governments share with each other. I think that helps us who want the data for apps or different things or for community activism. Gives us the opportunity to be able to say, you know, now that you're sharing with each other, we can share too. So I think that's fantastic to know that.
Great. So so this is a site where this is our demo sandbox site. So anybody can come here and create their own organizations, and basically you can do anything that I'm doing yourself. So feel free to kind of follow along, create an account, create an organization. But the really cool thing is obviously you can create data sets, and you're kind of guided through the process. You know, this form can be customized in a variety of ways. You can actually create the visibility to be public, private to start off with, and kind of you can either link to the data or you can upload it. So for example, maybe I should link to some of the data. So I can actually, so if we take this file, I can actually copy this link, and I don't even need to upload directly. So the data can actually be held somewhere else, and CKAN will still go and be able to kind of point to it and everything else. So this was it was a CSV file, I think. Yeah. You can add multiple resources to each data set. And I can add kind of maybe I should put this as country. You know, as well as kind of seeing who updates it. So this kind of gives me a data set. It's private. I can, once I've created it, so no one can see it yet, I can go manage it. I can actually edit it. I can edit the resources. I can add new resources. I can reorder them if I wanted to. There's a whole instant kind of data management functionality that comes into play that instantly makes people's lives easier. It's very, very different from having to kind of get your website administrator to go and update the link somewhere and update the text. You can just kind of go in and change and tweak anything you want. And this instantly actually kind of should appear. So this has already been instantly previewed. It's already searchable. You know, I think it's already been loaded into the data store. So I created it, and because on the demo site we've got the data store enabled, it's already gone in, loaded that data into the data store. And if I go back out, we now have a data API available. So that essentially means that you can query this data directly. So here are some examples. So you would use this particular resource ID, and you could say limit results, and you know, bring back 5 results, bring back results where column 3 number is over this amount. You can join data sets together in the data store. So for example, everything that's in the demo data store you could query across those data sets, and you know, create files that are common across them. So it's actually quite a lot of powerful functionality that's been gone into that. We have a
Ira.
Yeah.
So we've talked about government examples, and now I know that NGOs and different organizations or businesses, they also need to share data sets. And so these groups, I think what you've highlighted from here is that not only can you set up subgroups within your organization, you can set it up so that it's private, so that if you want to share just within your organization, you're an NGO, CKAN is also very useful for you. Do you have examples that are not governments?
Yeah, so lots of people that aren't governments, companies also use CKAN for internal data management. Mm-hmm. And I mean, and so all of this is kind of very scalable. So actually, if we go into the management kind of dashboard, mm-hmm. I actually have a member tab, so I can administer who has access and what level access. So for example, I can look up a user, or I can just add somebody's email address. So I could add my own email address, and that would send me an email invitation. I can look up, I think there's a demo user, and I can give them a role of member or editor, as well as being able to tweak these kind of access levels at a later point. So if I wanted to kind of say, actually, I don't want them to be just a member. So at the moment, we've got 3 roles set up. Members basically can see everything, including private data sets, but they don't actually have access to the kind of internal management views. Editors can create data sets, edit them, delete them, do everything, but they don't see the member tab. So that's the kind of the one that's missing. And then admins can sort of see everything. And this sort of way of managing authorization and access levels scales incredibly well. So if you're a big organization, you can essentially decentralize the data management and publication process. So instead of having 1 or 2 people who are responsible to update and authorize and review and all the data that's being kind of actually published, each publishing group, so say in a national government, it might be each department, so National Archives or the Department of Health or the Statistics Office, they will each have their own team and their own set of members and editors. And because they can have multiple people who just, you give somebody editor access, if that person suddenly calls in sick or gets run over by a bus tragically, you can just simply give somebody else the same level of access, and they will be able to go and continue updating and doing the work. So the data sets don't belong, they're not tied to an individual user account. They are owned by the kind of publishing group, which is far more scalable and kind of much easier to actually manage. Some of the other stuff that kind of on the data management side is actually this kind of bulk update deletion tools. So actually, I mean, here I only have 2 data sets, but if I said if I had 2,000, I could actually do similar things like browse by tags and filter and search, and mark them all as move them all to public, move them all to private, or delete them in one go. And so there's a kind of a way of having a workflow. So if you're the administrator that has to go through, lots of data sets get created, they're all private, you have to go in and do a final check. You can kind of go here and check each one and then make them all public at once together, instead of having to change each one. You can also, each kind of organization has their own descriptions. You can add descriptions, you can actually add pages as well. And different custom fields. So I think there's a pages extension that allows you to have blog and content management on CKAN.
So so you have pages and you have views and you can set up your data sets. I'm wondering, does it give you, so you got analytics on which data sets are being viewed, but do you get analytics, would you use another analytics tool to be able to show the success of CKAN? Are there other tools that people use in concert of that? Because I'm sure that, if they invest in CKAN and they start developing it, and organizations add, whether it be governments or civil society groups or companies, are there ways to add widgets, or how do people use this in concert as part of their workflow?
So there's a number of different things. So you kind of asked lots of different questions. I'm going to kind of go through some. So one, which is CKAN actually provides you really interesting feedback on how the portal is being used. So you can actually, so we both integrate with Google Analytics, and we have our own statistics package. So there's a way of looking at things like who's creating the most number of data sets, who's being, in a community site, you can see which groups are kind of the most active. What is getting updated or edited the most, what kind of has top ratings, which tags are being used the most, top numbers. There's also Google Analytics, which I can actually show you probably better from the data.gov UK site. So they actually, this is public, you can have a look at their site, Analytics, and this is basically just using the CKAN extension Google Analytics site, so you can view obviously by the kind of use by browsers. So Internet Explorer is still the most popular for all months, but for say maybe the month of April.
That Internet Explorer number 6.
Yeah, month of April though, Chrome is by far the most popular. So Chrome is clearly on the up. You can look at operating systems, kind of where the referrals are coming from. Twitter is a pretty low percentages for referrals. You can have a look at each different publisher. So this is kind of really interesting. So these are the number of dataset views by different publishers. So you can see the data sets from the Office of National Statistics have been overall the most popular. So it's the green line. But whoever's brown, I think Land Registry, saw a peak between October and November. So clearly there was like some key data set that was released at this point, and their data set kind of counts jumped significantly. If we look at the Office of National Statistics, we can actually see kind of breakdowns of which data sets saw how many views. So you can see these are the views and these are the download counts for these various data sets. So social trends, regional, and you can track what's kind of most popular. You can filter this by month. So more specifically, you can get the granular data within there. And all this data is available for download. Similarly, you can, so I guess that's the data set stuff again. So all this comes as analytics on top. In terms of integration, so Heather, you talked about integrating with a workflow. A lot of big portals integrate with their kind of website and content management system. So data.gov UK, for example, is using a combination of CKAN. So CKAN powers the sort of dataset page. I think Open Spending powers the spend reports. So this is another project of ours that essentially visualizes and makes spending data explorable. It's been used for kind of lots of really fantastic things. I think there should definitely be a community session on open spending. But it's also used here to kind of see which departments have their data up to date. So each department has to publish monthly reports of spending over 250,000. And this is a way of tracking it publicly to see if this is actually happening. But some of the other kind of sections of data.gov UK, for example, their data request site, are all in Drupal, and the site kind of seamlessly moves between CKAN and Drupal. So you can see we're in the Drupal part. If we go to applications, again, this is still Drupal, but as soon as you go into data sets, this is all powered by CKAN. But there's absolutely no difference in terms of user experience.
That's amazing. I think it's important to think about, like, how do people, and the reason I was asking all those questions is that, again, how do we show impact, and how do we integrate it into our workflow? It's too hard to do, and so you're answering those questions in a way. So that's why I kind of loaded it up. I also think that yes, I will definitely be going after the open spending team to be able to do something about their work. We haven't, just as an update, we haven't had any direct questions. I've been asking on the Google Plus page as well as monitoring Twitter. If you do have questions and you are listening, our folks that are listening, by all means, please do ask and don't hesitate. If we're answering all your questions, fantastic. But know that we're here, and we have CKAN Discuss as a mailing list that you can get lots of answers on too. But Ira, back to you. We are at 30 minutes now, just for your time check.
So one of the other things that I kind of wanted to show off is that I have access to some of the developer test environments within data.gov UK. So this is actually some of the things that publishers see. So publishers can add new data sets, set up their harvesting. And one of the things we built for them is actually a multi-step form. So I kind of showed how I created a data set in the demo site. But this is kind of a far more simple process, because we found that data.gov UK had their own kind of needs and their own set of departments, and this is totally possible as a publisher to really specify this kind of user journey. So we found that often a lot of the data is actually time series, so this is kind of month by month. It's released monthly or quarterly, and there needed to be a way to actually store that as a different type of record with different metadata. So you can kind of see the choices here for data files. So discard data information. Okay, yes, that's fine. But I might sort of just put in just an individual one. There's a validator that's built in that actually instantly checks the format of the data. I can add multiple rows. I can kind of check all the URLs to check that they're actually working. So one of the things I also show is the different validated reports. I can obviously add descriptions and license. So the UK uses basically this license by default unless the data's being kind of pulled in. If I choose a publisher, this is publisher details automatically will actually get filled in. So simply by choosing that, I can kind of go in and edit them manually, but they should just be automatically kind of, maybe I'll be transport direct. Sounds cool. Okay. And because we have a sort of theming, themes within data.gov.uk to help browsing, there's kind of all these, you can add primary themes. So mine might be about health, and I mean, I chose Department of Transport, so maybe I should choose transport, but transport health somehow.
I'm assuming that people can import their own themes, right?
So this is, yes, data.gov, not in data.gov.uk, right? They've chosen.
Well, you can't hack your government system that way.
Obviously, for CKAN, you can choose your own themes, you can choose your own tags. I can also, I can say this is about mental health in transport somehow, using buses. I don't know. I can kind of, as well as the data, I can also add reports and PDFs or some kind of things that have been written or websites that have been used. I can add temporal coverage to say this data set actually relates to the month of April to May. I can choose geographical coverage, and all of this will then get packaged up. I can click on Save and Finish Later into a data set.
Perfect. We do have some questions. Oh, that's okay. We have some questions. Do you want to sidebar and go to those?
I'm interested in integration of Recline.js and CKAN. Are there other ways to make maps for purposes other than geospatial searches of the data set? Okay, so
that's Mita's question. Hi, Mita.
Hello. So for example, Recline. So all the things I've been showing you is Recline.js. So I can give you another example. So the other day I was looking for allotments because I bought some seeds on the internet. I thought maybe I should get an allotment, and I found this data set from the London Data Store. So this is actually something we've kind of pulled into the London Data Store. So the London Data Store is a Drupal site, so you can see the actual data here. All you get here is just the CSV URL, right? So all you can do is kind of download, and that's pretty much it. However, once we get it into CKAN, we can actually start looking at this data. So I was able to have a look at what allotment locations are stored in the London Data Store. So this is the data file we have. So this is all powered by Recline. Recline.js, which is a JavaScript library. It's running off, well, it depends how the setup works. It's sometimes running off our data store, sometimes kind of generating this on the fly in the browser using our data proxy. But there are different, you can map this data as well. So unfortunately, this data is a bit rubbish, which is they got their latitude and longitude mixed up and they're spelt incorrectly. But I can actually put them in, and I can kind of look at this particular area. I can decluster the markers because I don't actually like them clustered. and I can see, for example, in this area exactly where the allotments are. And here is sort of kind of all the information: the name of the allotment, the actual nearest postcode, the borough, the organization that rents it. I can search through this data. For example, everything that's got Barnet in the name. Now all I see on the map are the Barnet rows, nothing else. So it's kind of really nice to be able to filter that through. There's been lots and lots of kind of questions have just sort of appeared, but let me. So here is a kind of a way that CKAN has kind of mapped some of the data using Recline.js. The way the visualization works is there's several defaults, but it's a pluggable preview. So, for example, by default, CKAN comes with a Recline, which is what this is. So this kind of grid graph combination that I've been showing, that is Recline.js. And it also, we preview things like, so maybe I can find some different types on this. We preview things like, we preview text files, for example. So I don't know how good this text file is, but it should be possible to see. So we preview, for example, this is a text file that said this is the Sparkle query that will return whatever this is. And we preview PDFs, we preview HTML pages. So if this is in fact an HTML page, you should be able to see it. Unfortunately, it links to a server error. We preview kind of GeoJSON files. So I don't know if this has GeoJSON, but that we do out of the box. Sure, publicdata.eu will have one somewhere. So that's another geospatial kind of format that we just preview.
So we have 5 questions, so hooray. So Ira, question number 2 is via Tobias. Can you please point out some of the most common extensions which are used to visualize geospatial data, shapefiles, GML, KML, CSV, and coordinate columns?
Yeah, okay, so there's there's several things. So one of the best, so we've got obviously CKAN X Spatial, but someone I know has recently developed another version of this that's actually, I think, possibly what we're going to adopt in future. So you can have a look at our geospatial and basically plug in. We preview, like I said, GeoJSON. We can integrate with WMS. I think that's not the one I was looking for, though. Okay, well, 2 seconds.
Hey, I'm going to try and find the link and throw it in there for everybody too. Just give me a second. If you find it beforehand.
Hmm?
It's like the competition who can get the link most fast, right?
I'm trying to find this. So I was recently in Ghent and I saw this. Got this really great link from Philippe. Where do you put it? Here we go. There we go. I think I found it. Okay, let me show you. Okay, so so this is a spatial extension that for CKAN that Philippe built, and essentially it actually previews all of these different files. And so this is kind of a test. So it previews KML and GeoJSON and kind of WMS and everything else. We usually integrate with external, obviously, services that serve web map services, and we have a kind of a library. So data.gov and data.gov UK preview WMS, but obviously we're usually kind of getting the endpoint from GeoPortal or something similar. So I'm kind of getting a little bit lost in all the questions here.
Okay. I can help you. That's what I'm here for. Question number 3 from Yuri in Canada. Hi, Yuri. Many organizations are looking for a data catalog platform, but have difficulty finding time to learn CKAN. They're looking for that turnkey hosted solution. What's out there? I feel like that was a planted question. I thank you, Yuri, for that segue. Please go ahead,
Goodness,
Ira.
sounds fantastic. Well,
Let us have an answer for you.
Because we have recently rolled out a new turnkey CKAN called CKAN Express, and this is CKAN just out of the box, right? This is hosted. It's got all the kind of standard functionality. Comes with the data store. Comes with so I think this is all the features. You know, comes with the kind of access level stuff, the graphing, the upload, and you don't get to customize your metadata. You customize your metadata form. You don't get to have it particularly themed, so you can choose your own colors and logo and everything else. But otherwise, this is just a kind of SaaS solution that we've tried to price obviously competitively, so you can have a look about everything that you get, and for the different amounts, you can see it in dollars as well. Look at that! Woo!
Hey, Ira, is this like DataHub.io, or is this different from DataHub.io? How's the difference?
So this is your own hosted CKAN site that you own, right? So what basically what you do is you say, right, this is what I want. We set you up with a plan. We spin up an instance for you. Then we give you the access, administrate access. You can create editors, start adding data files. You can kind of change the name and change all the text, change the the blurb and everything else. But that's your own site. So DataHub is a community shared site. So it's a site that we host for the community. So basically, you don't really get to edit any of the content. You don't get to create a blog or edit the about page or edit anything else. You just get to create a group and add data sets. So for example, these guys have created a group on the Data Hub and added data sets as a place to kind of coordinate and store data, usually in small amounts if they don't have kind of funds for their own site. But you can't have private data sets. You don't actually have administrator kind of authorization level stuff. You can just put things on there and group it together.
So what I see happening is kind of a tier, right? So if you're just a beginner and you want to learn how to share data sets, you can use DataHub.io. If you want to have it hosted and you want to have some help but you don't have the technical pieces forward, you can use CKAN Express. If you want to go full hog and really just make it your shiny branded version, you're going to get CKAN, you're going to download it, and you're going to hire some developers or use your in-house developers to do it. I think that's kind of
you can use us. So obviously, one of the things that it's not just us. It's also we have partner organizations like around the world. But the majority of people want a kind of custom hosted site or a custom self-hosted site. So what we usually do is, if you have some clear features that you want, you have your own metadata schema. You want an additional plugin. For example, you need to have a specific feed on the home page, or you want to kind of get data requests or something else. Then what usually happens is we go and do that customization work, and then we can either deploy it or host it. But it's obviously more expensive because it takes a bunch of time to do the work. So CKAN Express, the beauty of it is it's kind of the basic thing, but it just works straight away. You can kind of have it tomorrow. There's also kind of really lots of kind of big custom things like data.gov UK and data.gov. These are kind of really big projects. Or of course you can absolutely download it and set it up yourself, like the city of Surrey did, for example.
True. So there's lots of different options out there for people. So Yuri, thanks for that question. I think it's important to know what does it mean to do all this, and so what's your data sharing model and how you do it. So thanks so much, Ira. Question number 4 was from Yasser. Is it possible to set up CKAN in Arabic? Do you have an example of an Arabic website or solution using CKAN?
So I don't.
If you are playing along at home and you do have an Arabic example, if you want to share it or you want to add it into our G+ page later, that would be awesome too. Yeah,
so I have actually heard of I think there definitely is, but I haven't got something in hand. So I think there is like Arabic kind of language translations available, and I know there's a I mean, like I said, I don't have, not off the top of my head, but
That's
I can.
okay. We got homework. Either the community has homework or we have homework. Let's go and find that for us. 'Cause I think it's really kind of cool. That's a really great question, Yasser. As we think about around the world who's doing this, I think it's important to think about doing it in your own language and what's available for those examples, especially if you're trying to achieve buy-in with your organizations or within your country. So thanks so much for that question. Question number 5 is from Amit. First of all, he says, thanks for the tour, very useful. I'm curious if you have examples of CKAN implementations where there's a link between aggregate data and microdata. For example, we excuse me, we generate a number of statistics on a regional level, which is derived from household survey data. I'm interested to see how CKAN can relate those types of data sets. That's a tough question. I know that everybody needs examples on topic and location and language to be able to kind of do this and kind of frame it for themselves. So, if go ahead, Ira.
Aggregate data and microdata during a number of statistics at regional levels derived from household survey data. So I think this is something that actually could well exist and be being used, but not that I've seen. I think that there's several things that are possible and that are going on, which I haven't got around to talking about yet, but I can kind of talk about now, which is CKAN's ability to pull in data set records and metadata from lots and lots of different sites to one place. And there's obviously a way to try and join data together in the data store, but I haven't seen this kind of specific thing. One thing I would say though is it could well exist. So one thing someone emailed me. So actually, Ian from who built the federal data portal for Canada emailed me yesterday evening saying, "Hey, have you seen this?" And someone's built a real-time data kind of extension plug into CKAN, which handles real-time data. Apparently,
be still my heart. That is pretty sexy.
I see, there's kind of things like this that are kind of people working on and developing. I haven't actually had a chance exactly to look into everything that this does.
Yeah, as a crisis mapper, I'm going to be sharing that with there's a community of people who are trying to figure out open crisis mapping data, and we certainly work with real-time data sets in terms of emergency, so I'm going to be sharing that link with them, so thanks so much, Ira. We've got 10 minutes left just in terms of time check, so if you have questions, please don't forget that you can write them on the G+ page. I'll certainly get them to Ira. Some of you have given us some homework to go and hunt and dive. I'll certainly publish all the questions in a place where we can find them, but Ira, please go ahead. I'm going to look for more questions.
Okay, great. So one thing I wanted to also quickly show is one of the most powerful functionalities in CKAN is its ability to kind of really harvest, consolidate, validate data from across all these different places. So Public Data EU is as I mentioned before, aggregated data portal. So it's actually pulling in data from over 20 different sites. So for example, this is the National Italian Data Portal. And this essentially means that there's a kind of scalable, reliable, sustainable way of federating data across lots of different nodes. And being able to kind of, as a user, search across all of them. So, usually you'd have to kind of go and do all the work again in multiple places, but this goes and kind of pulls it all in on a regular basis. So over 9,000 data sets. You can see kind of all the different jobs. You can administrate it. You can reharvest. The fantastic thing is it's not a stupid harvesting process. You kind of the latest one is not finished. CKAN goes in and kind of fetches each record, and it keeps a record of how many data sets were added, how many were updated, how many were deleted, how many we didn't manage to create because they didn't fit the validation kind of profile. So you can actually go in and debug each of those errors and fix them. understand what they are. So, for example, here is a job report where the majority of the data sets were added, and the one obviously that's been more recent presumably added a few more, so added 2,000 more, but actually 5,000 were updated, some were deleted, and it goes in and checks the original sites and sort of sees what happens. And the idea is that it does this in a kind of in a intelligent way. So we don't just go and pull everything in each time. We actually have a unique identifier per data set, so we know which ones were updated, which ones weren't. So I think this Italian portal did a huge amount of work, because it went from not being a CKAN portal to being a CKAN portal recently. So I think in late last year they moved to CKAN. But you can kind of choose how often these get pulled: monthly, weekly, bi-weekly, daily. Change the kind of configuration and things like that. So this is something that's pretty cool, because obviously it means that I could search for allotments here, and even though it was on the London data store, it still showed up, and I could still go in and look at the data and download it and everything else and use it. Okay.
So Ira, with that portal, I think you might have answered this question before, but we had another question asking, is there a meta engine that allows us to search through all CKAN sites out there? Now, I want the master search for the universe, and I know everyone would say Google, but I would like a master search of data sets that aggregates the UN, the World Bank, and UN statistics and CKAN. That's my big dream in the sky. So if you have $1 billion and want to create that, that's fantastic. But Ira, is there a way to search just within CKAN across all the different instances?
So I wish there was. So basically, publicdata.eu is the closest we have, and the reason we even have that is because that's actually being funded by a European project under the FP7, funded by LOD2.
Okay.
I think, obviously a big kind of search through everything would be amazing, but it is a lot of work to set up, to maintain, to run. And if anyone has just a spare few 100,000 just lying around,
I think that's too low. I think you have to raise that money. Also, the server capacity and the redundancy, and just it sounds like a beautiful dream project. So, if we were to daydream about what does open data really mean and how do we make it possible, that would be the big dream, I think.
Yeah, so CKAN is actually very good at making the data more discoverable via Google. So actually, a lot of the traffic. So one thing I wanted to actually, if we do have a second, which we probably don't, oh dear. So I actually have access to I've got the email wrong.
Just want to say that we've got 3 minutes left, so if you have any final questions for Ira, of course, we're always available. You can find us on CKAN Discuss. You can ask us at CKAN Project on Twitter. You can find us on the OKFN Discuss, or on any of the CKAN. They have regular community meetings where you can go and ask questions. So if you're a developer or a community person and you have some questions just for the CKAN staff or for the community, those are CKAN dedicated meetings, so that if this is really kind of wet your whistle and you're really excited about CKAN, you have more, and you want to spend hours, having your data love in, we've got meetings for you. Kind of like AA for open data. Can I call it that?
Why not? Why not?
I'm going to get in lots of trouble for that. I'm just trying to add some humor. Go ahead, Ira. You got 2 minutes.
So I think we actually do make the data more discoverable via Google, because you kind of go from having a bunch of text, in a website or somewhere else, it's not very well labeled, to having that context, the title, descriptions, tags, everything else that Google do search. So the majority of traffic to data.gov.uk specific data sets come from Google. I was actually going to try and log in and show you some of the broken data reports and everything else, but I forgot my password into data.gov.uk. I have an access into some of the files, but I managed to lock myself out, unfortunately, at the last minute.
It's okay. Security matters, Ira. Security matters.
Security does matter, but I do have real access. But what else? But it also kind of generates stuff like broken link reports. A lot of times the links break. We assess all the data for openness against the 5 stars of open data, kind of Tim Berners-Lee. And there's a lot of kind of functionality that that comes to support it. I think a worldwide portal would be amazing. Do contact me once you have some money in the bank. I will make it happen. And otherwise, I think get involved. There's not just, there's obviously kind of, you can go buy CKAN, but also there's a huge community out there. If you're a developer, there's a kind of CKAN association. You can join our twice weekly developer calls on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We try and have all our kind of notes go out on the mailing lists. You can become a CKAN core committer if you actually come and contribute and get involved. We have a public roadmap. So on GitHub, we have a kind of ideas repository where you can submit ideas, vote things up, discuss stuff. So, our team, is not able to build everything. We have limited resources. We build, what we can get funding for, and I've got some kind of exciting things in the pipeline about data set views and exploration and better functionality. But we also want to help enable other people to build things.
Right.
And contribute to the whole community. And I've run out of time.
No, but Ira, that's exactly what I wanted to close with, is that CKAN can only exist and open data can only exist if it's done by a lot of people and a lot of brain cells. So please join our communities. We'll have another community session later today just about feedback regarding the whole open knowledge community. But I did want to say, Ira, thank you so much for letting us dive into your brain and letting me ask all my questions. And for all the people who asked questions today, thank you so much for your time. Again, more is more. I'll write a blog post and I'll put this up so that people can find it and get a kind of summary of what happened and what we talked about. But please don't hesitate to reach out to Ira. Please dump out her inbox. I'm just kidding. I have to make fun. We do have a wider community where we can answer questions and try and help out. So again, thanks very much for joining us on this happy Wednesday rainy day. And I'm going to click stop broadcast. So thanks again. Have a good day. Bye.